Combining network and endpoint analysis for the win. Password management with Endpoint Security. Deception and winning? Securing your data and an account security solution, or ASS. And our topic for today, we're talking about securing IoT in the enterprise, so stay tuned. This is a Security Weekly production. Brought to you by IT Pro TV. With IT Pro TV, you gain access to the most important tools needed to prepare for your IT certification. IT Pro TV has thousands of hours of up-to-date, high-quality video content. Course topics include CCNP, CompTIA Advanced Security Practitioner, Ethical Hacking, Virtualization, Cryptography, SSH, Microsoft Server 2016, and more. You can stream their courses live and on demand to your Chromecast, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, PC, or mobile device. They have one low monthly subscription price, and you can cancel at any time. Corporate pricing is available, and clients include Harvard, MIT, UCSD, Stanford, and more. Visit itpro.tv/enterprise security to upgrade your brain with the most popular IT certifications. Use the code ES30 for a free 7-day trial and save 30% off for life. Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Enterprise Security Weekly. This is episode 19. We're broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island. I'm, of course, your host, Paul Asadorian, El Jefe, here at Security Weekly and CEO of Offensive Countermeasures. I have with me on the lines via Skype the founder of Black Hills Information Security and CTO at Offensive Countermeasures, none other than John Strand. Welcome, John.
What? Oh, hey. Hi, everybody.
He's walking around with he's changing sets on us as we speak.
We'll just do it in post.
You always look like you're walking around like in an abandoned building somewhere in the hills of South Dakota.
This is the headquarters. This is the genesis. This is the womb of Black Hills Information Security and Offensive Countermeasures, and it's empty most all the time.
It's very clear that I need to come there and do some decorating.
You absolutely need to come and do some decorating. What we're missing here, I personally think, is an adequate amount of lube. And that's one of the things
I have some that I could potentially share.
Yep, and there's always time for lube.
That's right, there is. So I want to jump right into the security news this week and talk about E10 Security raising $12 million to expand what they call behavior intelligence efforts. Their CEO describes this as his company aims to differentiate from others in the market by looking at other factors beyond just users, including network and endpoint traffic. I believe that the vendor, this is me talking now, I believe that the vendor or collection of vendor solutions with integrations that does this really well, right, that can do things like logs and network analysis and look at the endpoints will be the next Palo Alto, FireEye, or Tanium, in my opinion.
Yes, I think that's absolutely the case. The thing I'm wondering is if you're looking at a company like E10 Security, who I just heard of today, how do you actually compete and catch up whenever you're starting with $12 million, which sounds like an awful lot of money, but in the reality of the grand scheme of things, whenever you're going up against some of the larger big boy players that have been doing this for a while, how do you actually effectively get into this race whenever there's a lot of people that have been that have already been down this path or are working down this path already? The last show, I think it was 3 different vendors that were doing behavioral analytics and doing integration between users and network devices and things of that nature. So this looks like it's another response company that's responding to what happened to the news stories in the previous week.
It's interesting. Mr. Ed Scotus tells me that Apple spent $1 billion in research and development of Siri. And it's I actually think it's a similar problem when you start looking at all the ways that you can slice and dice logs. And so that's where you're looking at this 12 million as just a small drop in the bucket, John, to solve a problem. And then if you're going to then add on to that network analysis, which there are a lot of companies that are doing all kinds of network. We're going to talk about some more in the show, in fact. And then you look at, they say endpoint traffic, but what if you're looking at what's going on in the endpoint? There's 40 different companies, I'm told, competing in the endpoint security space. So I don't believe, in my personal opinion, that it's going to be one vendor that solves this problem. I think that there's going to be a handful of vendors that integrate with each other. Some may integrate with each other, some may not, but they'll integrate with other ones, right? There's going to be like a handful, like a dozen or so, that are going to emerge as some of the market leaders. And I think also my prediction at this time is by the time that happens, there'll be some new security thing and new security threats and new security architecture that we'll already have to be working on that will be slowly replacing that. And that's just the way it's gone in security.
And that's interesting because you and I have talked about this in the past many times, how a lot of the current security technologies that you see coming out are answering the threats that came out 4 or 5 years ago, because that's how long research and development actually takes. And is it lagging that much? Also, with a lot of these products, when you're talking about behavioral analytics, when you're talking about host metrics from like, titanium, or you're talking carbon black, you're really dealing with just a tremendous amount of noise in that situation. And almost all the customers that we work with, there's not a single customer that we've talked to, Paul, in the past year that's like, yeah, these products, there's very few false positives and it's very, very clean. And it only tells us specifically about the vulnerabilities or the attacks or the risk vectors that we are interested in looking into. And almost all these vendors don't ever want to be that vendor that missed something. So they generate a lot more white noise, and we're back into the SIM problem where it's more data than we can possibly get through.
Right. Speaking of combining technologies, Thycotic. Are you familiar with Thycotic, John?
Very, very, very familiar with them.
Oh, interesting. So they're combining their password management, which is what founded the company, I believe, with this endpoint security / whitelist. I don't want to call it traditional endpoint security, but it looks more like a endpoint whitelisting product, and they have that in their portfolio now. They made an announcement this week. They quote SANS as saying that 85% of the attacks are on the endpoint. Even if that is the case, you still have to manage all these endpoint agents, and we're continuing to see the trend where a vendor will put a couple of them together, but still leaves gaps because you still need like some protection other than whitelisting, maybe. I don't know. You could probably get away with just whitelisting, but do you do some kind of advanced behavioral analysis that does exploit prevention like we talked about on Security Weekly last week? That technology exists, and there are vendors bringing that to market as well. In fact, we're bringing someone from Endgame on this show. I believe they're scheduled for an interview. Awesome endpoint technology. But it then begs the question that we ask almost every week: how many endpoint agents can you withstand on your systems and manage in your environment?
And that gets into the key. I mean, if you're one of these companies, and this is something that we're constantly dealing with as kind of a startup, right, Paul? One, we stayed away from agents for this very reason. It's almost impossible for many organizations to say, yeah, let's throw another 2 or 3 agents onto our endpoints and try to secure things. It's very, very difficult to do that. The other thing is, this is another one of those technologies, another one of those companies. How do you actually differentiate yourself from Carbon Black, Bit9, or Cylance, or those types of vendors that have such an amazing, I don't want to say market share, but the mind share and the concept of advertising and generating buzz? You're starting really, really far behind the curve. I think privilege management is great, but you look at privilege management and you immediately think of like CyberArk, or you think of Beyond Trust, who we were talking about before the show.
Or you think of Lieberman or Centrify. I mean, these are companies that, again, I'm really paying a lot of attention to lately. I think their technology is... Do you believe this is true, John? Do you think that they haven't got as much play in the security space as they should?
I think that it's right now, it's at exactly what it should be as far as adoption rate. I do think within the next 12 months, I think in 2017, you're going to see a huge uptick in these behavioral analytics and application whitelisting products that are out there right now being deployed. But it's like we were talking about, Paul. If you're a company that's just getting started right now, how do you compete with companies that have already gone through the bumps, that have already gone through the implementation, that are now tried and true, and actually have narratives that they can go behind and say that they're installed in 1,000 companies or 5,000 companies? I just see that as really, really hard to overcome.
Well, I tell you what you do. If you develop an agent that works on legacy operating systems and it's priced right, you would clean up today, because as far as I understand, there is nothing available that's good for legacy operating systems. And I don't. I guess what do you do? Do you once those legacy operating systems completely go away, which may never happen? Do you bank the company on the fact that Windows 10 is going to be a legacy operating system? And I don't know. I guess it's not a very good business strategy, which is why no one's putting it in the market. But there's a need right now for that.
And I think that the closest we get to that for legacy operating systems is Bromium. But the kickback for Bromium is it's very effective. You can run it on Windows 2000, but it tends to break a lot of applications. And I know that some of the people at Bromium would disagree, but talking to our customers, they say, yeah, it's great, it's awesome if it worked with our app, which it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good to know. Let's see. A new study has been released as on deception as an offensive weapon, and this comes from A10 Networks. They state on their website, deception lures and decoys real operating systems and services, confuse and redirect attackers for real-time detection, which has been A10's thing since their inception. And while I think this is interesting technology, I think attackers are pretty smart, and I think they've always been pretty smart. I think we've underestimated them. I also don't believe it acts as an early warning system. Let's let this scenario play out. An attacker gets in, they get into your real systems, and they don't touch the decoys. And then all of a sudden they touch the decoys. It's not an early warning system. It's a, oh shit, we've been hacked indicator, which isn't necessarily bad. I mean, if you didn't have that, maybe you would have never known that you've been compromised. I just think the way that these technologies are positioned in the market today, John, is a little misleading. I don't want to say they're bad. Like I said, I think it's great if you can find out about it, whether it's before or after the initial attack happened. But I think my recommendation for these technologies is absolutely use them, but make sure that you have a more solid foundation than I think you'll be alluded to needing when you adopt these technologies. Like, make sure you have patching everything, vulnerability management, application security, that kind of stuff.
And yeah, I agree. We've been down this path quite a bit whenever we're talking about cyber deception, cyber attribution, active defense type technologies. And we literally wrote the book on it.
Yep.
And I think that you and I always have a soft spot in our heart for these companies because in some way, I really think that, they're kind of, brain children of the things that we've been pushing for the past 7 years. So it's really cool to see A10 actually moving in this direction. But once again, get everything in place before you actually move on to these advanced technologies. But for all that's holy, if you're a company that's really solid and you're looking for the next step, start looking at this. This is some really, really cool stuff. And Gadi Avron's company, Symmetria, is definitely in this category as well.
Absolutely. Commvault Data achieves integration with SAP HANA. Now, we've talked about SAP HANA in the past, and so I had to go look at what Commvault was. To be honest with you, I had never heard of Have you heard of Commvault before? We talked about it now? Okay.
No.
So they say they can help you transform your data into a powerful strategic asset with data protection and information management solutions that enable you to protect, access, and use all of your data anywhere, anytime.
What the hell does that mean?
I looked at it as a focus on securing the data, right? Protecting your data, making sure that only the people who are supposed to be accessing your data can do that. I don't think this isn't a bad concept to me, John.
It seems to me like that's computer security.
Makes
right?
sense,
I mean,
right?
I'm lost as far as like why this is something new.
Well, it's not something new. They had a new integration with SAP HANA, which hooks into all kinds of other systems to help manage them and can manage the data that flows through HANA, which is a super powerful integration. So I'm not too familiar. I want to know more. I thought it was kind of interesting.
This Commvault would be a company I'd love to get on the show and talk with. It would be very cool.
Absolutely. We should have like a rapid fire vendor extravaganza in a segment on the show every once in a while. Where like we line up like 5 vendors and they each get like 3 minutes or something, like a lightning talk kind of thing. And
get a whole bunch of vendors in the same space. That would be the coolest
that would be
thing.
awesome. It might be kind of fun.
Yeah.
So CyberArk, who we mentioned earlier, basically they're announcing a collaboration with a services company. It sounded like from this announcement. However, I pulled out of this article a really nice sentiment, I thought, from Adam Bosnian, works for CyberArk and Global Business Development. He says it's critical that organizations take proactive, layered approach to protecting their most valuable assets, making privileged account security the first thing organizations should focus on when prioritizing their risk management strategies. I have to say, and I know Adam is my Armenian brother and all, but I totally agree with that statement. And I think that a lot of people don't do that. So therefore, it has my vote as, of all the marketing that we see and all these things that we read, John, like I read that, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
I think the thing that's missing from a lot of these conversations for these different tools is that you're going to need manpower behind this. You're going to need more resources. Everyone's trying to staff their security operations centers with the same level of staffing that they had 5, 7, 10 years ago. And with these new technologies that are coming out that are trying to stop more advanced attackers, you're talking about products that do identity and access management. You're talking about systems that do application whitelisting. Your security operations center is going to need to grow accordingly. And that's the one thing that's missing. These technologies are not replacing people. If anything, they're increasing the amount of people that you have to have on your security team.
Yep. Oh, and my next funny thing, and this, I'm going to make a plea with the entire security vendor community. A10 Networks introduces new solutions to stop DDoS attacks. Now, I'm not picking on A10 per se. However, this is a great idea, right? I mean, given the Krebs website and the whole, that's another soapbox, but everyone's talking about DDoS attacks and IoT device security. We're going to talk about it today, in fact. But this sounds great. I want to protect my network from a DDoS attack. And you go to the website, and I have no idea how this actually works. And I want to start a movement after this experience and hundreds of experiences I've had in the same light. I want to start a movement today here on episode 19 of Enterprise Security Weekly. A movement, maybe a hashtag, I don't know. There should be a button on every vendor's website that's called, I just want to know how it works. And when I click it, it actually gives me the technical details and tells me exactly how it works.
All right,
please,
Paul.
Please.
We have to start this at home. Shoot an email to Sierra and say, we need a button that I click.
We should have put it on our website. That's right. We're going to start the charge.
We're going to start it now. Shoot it to Sierra and I right now. Let me open up my email.
Yes.
And we're going to shoot Sierra an email. And we're going to tell people exactly how our tool works. And we're going to try to move away from saying things like proprietary algorithms, fourth generation AI. But we're going to clean our house first, Paul.
That's right. We'll clean our house. We're going to put this button on our website first. And we're going to hope and pray that people follow suit and save us the agony. I mean, A10 could have the greatest DDoS protection in the world. But if I can't figure out how it works, it's lost. And I feel bad. If that's the case, if they actually do have a really great solution, I feel bad. So if someone does use A10 and can email us and tell us how it works, please do that. Or if it doesn't work, tell us whose solution does. That's what we're trying to get to the bottom of on this show, John. I think it speaks to the heart and soul of Enterprise Security Weekly. Now I'm going way off on a tangent, but...
All right, I'm shooting the email now, Father Paul.
Make it so.
Off. We're going to make it happen.
That's right. Gigamon, well, one of our favorite vendors, actually, John. We love Gigamon because they give us network packets, and network packets are where it's at. They've got a product called Giga Secure. It's a secure delivery platform that provides pervasive visibility to network traffic, users, applications, and suspicious activity, delivering it to multiple security devices simultaneously without impacting network availability. My comment, this is important. We need this in the enterprise. This is awesome.
Yeah, just throw money at Gigamon now. Mm-hmm. If I had some dollar bills, I'd be like laying on a table with them in my mouth right now. The idea of Gigamon coming up with a security solution that allows you to have multiple tap ports that you can basically hook into and start plugging in your security devices into it. I mean, this is exactly what we were talking about 2 weeks ago, Paul. Mm-hmm. Companies that are going to be successful are going to be the companies that find a way to integrate with existing infrastructure and existing products.
Right.
And to be able to set this up and span it off, and oh God, this is beautiful. So this is a great product, and getting that level of visibility across the egress, ingress points, or even inside of your environment with Gigamon, dude, you and I couldn't ask for anything more. This is what we want to plug into. This is what everybody's going to want to plug into.
Building add-ons just got 2.0 times easier from Splunk. They've always had kind of cute marketing things like that. I actually like it. And my whole thing was if they basically made it easier to build add-ons. And if you're looking to add features to log management or SIM, this could be the place to do it. Organizations roll their own solutions, but I like systems such as Splunk that let you build your own add-ons. I think that's great. Let Splunk do some heavy lifting. You focus on the features and functionality that you need. You're not creating your own SIM or your own entire solution. You're customizing it for your environment or using someone else's code because they solved a problem in their environment and built an add-on for Splunk and are giving it away for free, and then you can use that. I think it's great. I think it's great that it's easier to build these. Now, John, I know you probably come into contact with Splunk a bit more, and I know implementations can be very different. What do you think of building add-ons?
I think that trying to write add-ons for Splunk, this has been one of those areas that a lot of people have had a problem with Splunk for a long time. It's a great platform. It's a really, really cool environment. You have not really open source, but you have a free product. There's a lot of people behind it. But actually sitting down and writing your own stuff could be a little bit daunting. It wasn't really easy to do. And to be honest, that's not saying it was easy in ArcSight or anything else. It's just...
True.
It was kind of cumbersome. And I think that the ability to actually create a dashboard that makes it easier for building the add-ons as a whole, I think that that's taking a direct problem that this company has realized that they've had, and they've developed a solution to try to make it easier for people moving forward. What the hell else would you want as a company? This is helping create the ecosystem. The more you have people writing add-ons, the more you have people sharing the add-ons, the more people are going to want to start using your product.
Completely agree. Niara's user behavior analytics solution is certified to integrate or interoperate with McAfee Enterprise Security Manager. Now, let me just say this. If you're using or you have, those are two different things, right? Like having McAfee ESM and using McAfee ESM are two different things. But if you're in either one of those categories, you should be looking at Niara, in my opinion.
Yes.
Right? Challenge me if I'm wrong here, but I just think if you put the investment into something like ESM for McAfee, you probably want to look at a more pointed, hip and cool and feature-rich solution like Niara. Why not?
So 2 things about this. The first thing, you had your pet peeve. Here's mine. I am sick and tired of this opening sentence. I know that somehow we've managed to get the attention of a lot of people in the enterprise space, but if you're writing a press release and it sounds like this, Niara, a recognized leader in user behavioral analytics, just stop. Don't do that ever again. You had your button, Paul. I'm sick and tired of every single one of these where they say X product is a global leader or a recognized leader or a thought leader. Just stop. That crap shuts off almost anybody that's going to buy your product from reading the rest of the article.
Yeah, that's a language. A lot of in the marketing, you don't want to say that you're the only one that does it because, 1, you may not be, and 2, if you say that, someone will go build something enough to say that they do it too and make you look like an ass to say the only. So what marketing spins this as is a recognized leader. We are the best we are best in breed, to kind of replace that we are the only ones, because that will come back to bite you. So that's why, John, when you read these, you'll see that all the time.
Yeah,
I agree. It's kind of like it's like a de facto marketing statement that's how they open up.
So I think for our marketing, what we're going to say is offensive countermeasures, a scrappy young upstart. There we go.
There you go. Let's just be honest, right? I mean, not that they're not being honest. I mean, they very well could be a recognized leader in user entity behavior analytics.
It could be. But here's the deal with this, and I want to get your opinion on this. Let's step away from the technology for a couple seconds, and let's understand if this is actually a good play for Niara. So if Niara started to integrate with McAfee, do you think McAfee is not developing user behavioral analytics platform right now? And the reason why I bring this up is Niara in the short term trying to partner with a massive organization like McAfee? Are they trying to do it to get more market share, or are they trying to get it to the point where they can actually get bought by McAfee? Because the only reason why I see them doing this from a financial perspective long term for the company is either A, trying to get bought out, or I don't know, I don't know what B would be.
B is more. I think B is more market. I think you hit the nail on the head, John. B is more market share, and that's
but
why
it seems like it's a short term. It seems like it's a short term market share because it's just going to be a matter of time before McAfee develops their own behavioral analytics, and you're basically kind of helping your own competitor at that point.
Unless McAfee has said they don't want to build it.
That could be. That very well could be. I find that hard to believe because McAfee tries to get into everything eventually. But this is interesting. I don't know if I was a CIO, if I would be running out, not necessarily not using Niara, but basically, I don't know if I'd be using Niara in just this fashion, because it seems to me within the next 12 to 24 months, Niara is going to split from McAfee, or McAfee is going to split from Niara, or McAfee's going to buy Niara. It's going to change. The way the implementation is going to change.
I do want to say I did visit Niara when we were at Black Hat, and they were very nice folks that were there and spoke with us. Super nice people. I think Niara is betting on that. They're going to gain some market share. People are going to start using Niara. McAfee could try and develop their own UBA type technology. It's probably what they're banking on is that it's probably going to suck, and the McAfee is going to start pushing to not use Niara and use their own. And what would end up happening is people just go buy a different SIM that integrates with Niara, because those features are the ones they're using the most and they love. So Niara's banking on their own product, and I can't blame them for that, and I wish them the best of luck. I hope they pull it off. So
yeah, and I think we like these guys quite a lot, not just because they were cool, but they seem to have a really good technology, and it seems like I'm starting to see them more and more in the enterprises that we test and we work with today, and they seem to be doing really well.
That's good. At
the very minimum, they do as well as Exabeam and some of the other user behavioral analytics platforms we've seen, like Advanced Threat Analytics and Rapid7's user behavioral analytics. So they seem to be coming up and playing with the big boys and doing a really good job of it.
Awesome. Alrighty, with that, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about IoT in the enterprise, because everyone else has been talking about it. But John and I have been talking about it for a long time, so stay tuned.